Good morning, friends. Last lecture we have to discuss of the manufacture of the ethyl alcohol from the molasses. Okay, in this lecture we have to discuss about the manufacturing of the ethyl alcohol from the food grains. Okay, manufacture of the ethyl alcohol from the food grains. That ethyl alcohol you have to form from the food grains. Therefore, to obtain the ethyl alcohol from the food grain, it is divided into by following step. Okay, you have to manufacturing of the ethyl alcohol, and that manufacture of the ethyl alcohol from the food grain, and therefore this conversion it is provided, and it is completeness. It is by these four steps. First is a malting, second is mashing, then third is the fermentation process, and fourth is distillation process. These four steps, it is a conversion of the food grain into the ethyl alcohol. Okay, this is the introduction part of this manufacture of the ethyl alcohol from the food grains. Okay, look at this point. That point it says that to obtain the ethyl alcohol from the food grain, it is divided the following steps. Okay, therefore to obtain the ethyl alcohol from the food grain, it is divided into the following step. Okay, you have to obtain the ethyl alcohol from the following steps. Okay, first is a malting. Okay, you have to know about the malting. Malting is a component, and that malting is also useful for preparation of the whiskey and the scotch. Okay, therefore this malting is the malt prepared from the barley. Barley means you have to know about the component, that is a bajri or gahu. Okay, this is some of the barley component, and that barley by the soaking it in water. Okay, means that malt is prepared from the barley by soaking it in water and allowed to germinate for the 20 days and drying carefully under regulating condition from the malts. Okay, means you have to formation of the malt, and that malt it is prepared by the malt you have to prepare from. You have to take the barley. Okay, and that barley you are to soaking into the water. Okay, you are to soaking into the water, and therefore after the 20 days, okay, you are to soaking into the water and to allow to germinate for the 20 days. Okay, means that barley you have to taken and that in soaking into the water, and therefore you have to germinate this soaking barley about the 20 days. Okay, germinate of about the 20 days, and after the 20 days, therefore the drying carefully under regulating condition. Okay, after 20 days we have to dry them. Okay, you have to dry them up under the regulating condition, means some of the regulating condition you have to dry them, and then you have to formation of the malt. Okay, so this is the first step, that is a malting. Second step is about the mashing. Okay, second step is about mashing. You have to form the malt, and that malt containing the amount of starch and the sugar with the enzyme diastase. Okay, you have to very carefully know about the malt is contain the amount of, you have to know about in the rice. Okay, some of the rice starch solution, or some of the potatoes, and that potatoes it containing the maximum amount of the starch contain, and therefore this barley also containing the starch, and therefore the maximum amount of starch into this barley, and therefore it is says that the malt containing the amount of starch and the sugar. Okay, means your malt is formation, and that malt containing the amount of starch and sugar, and that starch and sugar with the enzyme diastase. कशाबरोबर येते enzyme diastase, and therefore that is the conversion of the malt. Therefore it is about the malt is a crush and the mix with hot water. Okay, you have to take the malts, and then the malts with the enzyme diastase. Therefore then you have to malt is a crush. and they mix with the hot water. Okay, you have to crush them and mix with the hot water, and therefore your raw grains or the potato starch also added. Okay, your raw grains or potato starch also you have to add it into the crusher, and therefore its temperature range, okay, this process temperature range is about the 40 to 60 degrees Celsius. You have to maintain them this temperature of the 40 to 60 degrees Celsius of the malt crush. Okay, then third is the fermentation in presence of enzyme -. Okay, look at this, the fermentation in presence of enzyme -. This is the fermentation in presence of enzyme -. This is the enzyme -. Okay, this is enzyme -. That the fermentation in presence of enzyme -, the starch is converted to the maltose. Okay, look at this, this is the starch, and that starch in presence of hydrolysis in presence of diastase enzyme to produce the maltose. काय प्रोड्यूस होतं, कशामध्ये कन्वर्टेड होतं, maltose मध्ये, or the malt sugar it is called as mashing, or the malt sugar it is called as mashing. So this is the definition of the mashing. It is a simple definition. That definition it is says that the fermentation in presence of enzyme -, fermentation in presence of enzyme -, therefore the starch is converted to the maltose or the malt sugar, maltose or malt sugar. It is called as mashing. It is called as mashing, and therefore this reaction it is says that therefore you are to taking the starch, in this starch you have to add them with the water, and in presence of diastase enzyme you have to formation of maltose or the malt sugar. Therefore this process is known as mashing. Okay, and therefore you have to formation of the maltose in presence of maltage, in presence of maltage yeast. Therefore you have to formation of the glucose, you have to formation of glucose. Then that glucose you have to form them in presence of zymase yeast to produce the ethyl alcohol and the carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is all about the mashing process, and that mashing process it is a conversion of the glucose into the alcohol and the carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is the second step, that you have to conversion of the food grain into the ethyl alcohol. Second is fermentation process. Okay, next is fermentation process. After the completion of mashing, after the completion of mashing, therefore the sweet liquid or the wort transferred into the fermenting tank. Okay, means after the completion of mashing, therefore you are to taking the mashing, the sweet liquid are formed or the wort transferred to the fermenting tank. Okay, then it is transferring to the fermenting tank, and in this tank, to this wort you have to yeast is added. Okay, in this fermentation tank you have to add the yeast. Okay, and that yeast, that is a enzyme maltose yeast. Okay, that yeast is a enzyme maltose yeast, and that yeast it is a converted to the glucose. That yeast it is a converted to the glucose, means that sweet liquid, that sweet liquid in it is pumped into the after the completion of the mashing, therefore it is a pump into the fermenting tank. In this fermenting tank you have to add the yeast, and that yeast such as the enzyme maltose yeast, and therefore it is a converted to the glucose. Okay, therefore it is converted to the glucose, and that enzyme yeast zymase is a present in glucose. Okay, your enzyme yeast zymase it is a present in glucose, therefore it is converted to the ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is the fermentation process, and that process you have to also useful for the food grain, it is converted to the ethyl alcohol. And the last step is about the distillation process. Last step is about the distillation process. That ethyl alcohol it is separated from the mixture by the fractional distillation, means that you have to, after the fermentation process, it is formation of the alcoholic component, and that alcohol you have to separate it from the mixture. Okay, that alcohol you have to separate it from this mixture by the fractional distillation process. Okay, you have to ethyl alcohol it is separated by this mixture, you have to use by the fractional distillation process, and that fractional distillation process, therefore you have to formation of the Scotch whiskey, and that Scotch and whiskey you have to prepared by barley malt. Okay, that Scotch and whiskey you have to prepared by barley malt. Okay, therefore this is all about the manufacture of the ethyl alcohol from the food grain. Next time we have to discuss about the manufacturing of the ethyl alcohol from fruits. Thank you.